Hello everyone! For those who doesn't know me, I'm Akito Miyazaki from Los Angeles. Now, how am I supposed to start this thing? Well, back in the past, and nowadays, so many historical events or issues like civil rights movement, riots, Me Too movement, and many more are undoubtedly unforgettable that anybody can remember it forever. But what about us? What about the people who have learning disabilities, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and dyslexia? Shouldn't it be part of important issues? I mean, a lot of people are aware of educational system in the US and the world. It seems that no one wants to talk about their inner feelings like me. So my grand compelling question is, why learning disabilities doesn't matter to our modern world? Before I talk about my stories and the secondary sources I found, let me explain you about it first. Learning disabilities are the disability that has a lack of understanding of general studies. Some of them are basic and advanced level. ADHD is the type of disability that people are unable to concentrate on something like boring lectures. They get distracted by the train, automobiles, or extremely catchy music. While dyslexia is a disorder when people have reading, writing, and spelling difficulties. Most children and students experienced some rough environments in school, especially their own inner feelings. I guess they love things that they are good at, such as English, PE, or music, which are the common subjects that students might love. Unless you guys are extremely smart like Jimmy Neutron, it is impossible to succeed on every subject because people have their own hobbies that they care about the most, while you get rid of something you don't like. For example, when Alien revealed, I was repulsed by math because it challenged me so much. I distracted myself with the subject matter around it because I was interested in words and could connect with language. This interplay of exhaustion, panic, guilt, and defeat is a frightful symphony. In my experience, this is the emotional soundtrack of ADHD. I do have a similar story to it, but a little different in terms of distraction. I don't remember the date specifically, but when I was in junior high, after obsessed with movies at school, I got distracted the scenes from the movies in my head and couldn't concentrate on what teachers were saying. It kind of feels like daydreaming to me, but I was awake completely at that time. Even though it was distracting, I wasn't very exhausted, panicked, or felt guilty about it because I truly love what I like the most and wouldn't mind it bothering me. However, despite having a passion of movies during high school, the only thing I wasn't happy about was the educational system. Jeez. Okay. Although the policy in my international high school was not strict, some teachers didn't assist us, our writing, speaking, or reading in a private area with no particular reason. I had no choice, so I had to read the books in English more often independently without any help. I tried my best I can, but as a result, I didn't go straight to the US from high school. Instead, I went to Japan College of Foreign Languages in Tokyo to study twice harder than my high school. It was a school where students prepare to study abroad by creating a portfolio like 2D art, movies, and 3D art, and obviously improving my English skills. Oh man, has it been that long? So, anyhow, after that, I successfully passed Columbia College Chicago because of those rich materials that JCFL provided. The story of mine reminded me of Mitchell, a student from Michigan talked about the school system. He said, "The university does not help at all that much. I got far more help in high school and stuff that I needed like my writing. Here I got none of that." It was somewhat true, but most high school in US and Japan doesn't provide those services for students. These kind of stories could have been a big deal for our society, but people instead focusing on something else, such as LGBT community or crime rates. It may reference to the people with learning disabilities, but not exclusively. From the video, "Do I have ADHD?" Dr. David Goodman believed 20 or 30 years from now, we will no longer be having this discussion about ADHD. It is unfortunately true that people won't be having this conversation about it because there are mild disabilities that are possible to fix. But it is never entirely true, because even if they try their best they can to succeed on studying, they would give up on it because they would think about their limitation of their intelligence. In other words, they worry too much. In order to avoid this negativity, they have to think positively and use an effort to gain their success. Back to my true story, in Tokyo, Japan, my mother opened an event of students with learning disabilities and gathered a group of people from Japan. It was basically a story hour that people listened to our stories, which was my story and other mothers' kids' disabilities. The theme for this event was to be who we are. This event is not just for LD people, but also for Down syndrome and intellectual disability. In that way, people might spread our stories to more people in Japan and possibly in the world. It's in progress, but eventually it will work just fine. In general, people would think that people with LD, ADHD, and dyslexia are lack of intelligence. Well, I don't think so, because they have a full potential regarding their artistic vision. They are the artists who can think and see things metaphorically. A lot of famous people like Keira Knightley, Tom Cruise, or Albert Einstein have those disabilities when they were young, and later they became famous. One of the newest articles I find it inspirational was Sally Gardner's "Dyslexia is not a disability, it's a gift." F. Scott Fitzgerald, Agatha Christie, John Lennon, and Einstein said, "Imagination is more important than knowledge." From my experience, I sometimes dreamed about the movies I created in my head. Afterwards, I used my dream methods to create the films I wanted. Thinking it too much about the stories won't help at all, because it will give you frustration and confusion if you do those things. It naturally came to my mind when imagining something I enjoyed. It felt like it was editing itself in my head. As a student, Stephen Bonfield said, "The goal I think I reached was that I became happy with myself. I was able to consider myself normal, though I hesitate to use that word." I could relate to his feeling because saying something authentic and inwardly might be odd to everybody, but understandable. People do their own things and let the worries out of their heads, no matter what other people were saying. When I was a freshman in Columbia College, Chicago, I wasn't confident about writing an essay in my own way that everybody would disagree with me. That was my worst fear of all. However, Jim DeRogatis, an associate professor from New Jersey, once told me that there is no right or wrong. It is only an opinion. His advice made me write an essay easily and confidently. A simple word from a different culture made me a big difference to my life, because I lived in Japan for 12 years and no one ever gave me advice like Professor Jim did. In my opinion, Japanese educational system is kind of messed up because they don't accept other people's different opinions or different perspective. They would simply follow what people in general would think. I love Japan, but for education, I'm afraid to say this, no. Anyhow, I am happy with Professor's advice, and myself also. By having LD, ADHD, and dyslexia may hurt me, but having it gave me some meaning to my life, that it isn't the end of the world. It gave me an artistic vision that no one else has, and as long as I keep my positivity, my life will be better than in the past. Like Curtis Mayfield sang, "Move on up, and keep on wishing. Remember your dream is your only scheme, so keep on pushing."
Move on up and keep on wishing. Remember your dream is your only scheme, so keep on pushing.